Hey everyone, this is Keith from Gaming Trend. I'm here at Origins Game Fair, and I am here with Peter from MVP Games. We're here to talk about his current game that's on Kickstarter, Salvation Row. So tell us a little bit about the game. You said it's a Mad Max themed type of game?
Yeah, it's Mad Max themed, obviously inspired by that. And it's a cooperative game played for 1 to 4 players, but we actually do have scenarios in the back of the book. After you played the base game, mastered it, we actually go 2 ways on our scenarios. Standard difficulty is, we call it 3, but you can go down to difficulty 1 or 2, or even up to difficulty 5. So if you want to adjust the difficulty, it is a very difficult game, so some people like to back down the difficulty a little early on to get through it, and then up the difficulty as well. But one of those scenarios actually plays up to 8 players. So, and it'll still play in about an hour, even with 8 players.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. With 8 players, unless you're talking about a party game that never happens.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's definitely not a party game. It's strategic. I mean, I think Euro-style players will enjoy it because the mechanics we've definitely worked on for over 2 years. Very streamlined mechanics. You know, you're going to move as an action, you're going to search as an action, you're going to collect resources in action. You have a lot of control over that, but also it's very thematic in the way it plays too. You're being attacked by marauders. You know, you've got wounds, these wound tokens over here. As you take wounds, they come in like this, but actually they're going to flip at some points, and they have different things that happen on the back. So injuries, you could be injured, which is more just long-term, it takes longer to heal, but you also have things like you get woozy from blood loss, and you fall over, so your character gets delayed. And what that means mechanically is you're going to take an extra action that turn, so to stand your character up. Now you don't lose your whole turn, but you're going to lose part of your actions that you were planning on getting something solved with.
So what's the overall objective of the game?
So the objective of the game, you're actually guarding a band of survivors. It's you and a bunch of people, but you are really the heroes of the story, although some of the heroes aren't as strong as others, and that's really one of the keys to the game that people have really fallen in love with. You have 2 characters you're controlling per player. You're controlling both a hero character, which has a very strong ability, which will help you throughout the game, but you're also controlling these survivor characters, which do the same actions as the heroes, but they also have a negative ability that's going to hurt you throughout the course of the game. So as you're taking these characters, moving them around, you're going to have to learn to mitigate these survivor characters, and you're going to have to learn to use to their best ability the hero abilities, and sometimes they'll synergize together. Like, one person increases the threat at the location, another person lets you re-roll the threat at the location. So, you know, having those 2 characters together works really well, obviously, because, yeah, it's more threat, you know, they're making a lot of noise because they're clumsy, but at the same time, they are, you got a character there that's protecting that character, a stronger character.
So what are the actions that you can perform in the game?
So the actions are fairly straightforward. Every character, a lot of the characters have actions on them. Also, you have these locations here, which you're going to be traveling to. So one location is just to move from one location to another. Another action is to search. So you're searching, you're going to just add resources to the location you're currently at. Another action, and then you're also going to increase the threat of the location. So the further in you search, the more threatening the locations become. You also have an action for each of the locations. So at St. Joseph's Hospital, if your character there has wounds on them, every turn you can remove a wound for being at the hospital, but then you've used that location's ability.
Okay.
And you have to end your turn here. Some of them you have to end your turn on, some of them you have to use an action to actually use. Every time you play, there's also going to be a recon location. The goal of the game is to actually get to salvation. So you're collecting these resources, bringing them, putting them on your truck over here, and then your goal at the end of the game is to travel. Now you're going to have these travel cards. There's 2 actions you can do at these recon locations over here. One of them is to scout the location, which just means adding another one to the board. It gives you a general idea of what resources you're going to need at the end of the game. But the other action you can do is actually explore a location. You could flip a location over and figure out exactly the resources you are going to need to travel at the end of the game. The problem is time with any of these things. You're under a lot of time pressure. So yes, you could fully explore every single road card, know exactly what you're going to need at the end of the game. There will require a toll that will be a flip at the end of the game, so you won't know exactly every resource, but you can have a pretty good idea of what you're going to need. But the question is, do you take time to do that? And then, of course, in this situation, you're gonna have to take moons to explore because you're going in a radiated satellite station. The more time you spend to zoom in that camera there, the more radiation poison you're taking. So there's lots of choices. I mean, that's why I said I think Eurogamers will really like it, even though it's a very thematic game. You're constantly making choices. You're constantly dealing with situations. I get 2 wounds on my character. Do I deal with those now, or do I press on through that, collecting resources, moving? So another action is to collect a resource. You just put your resource on your character space. Now, if you notice, every character is going to have a different strength to them, and these circles represent what you can use for either carrying capacity or for wound capacity.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, and then of course you're holding these wounds now, and for 1 med, so all these resources are used to travel at the end, but they're also used to help you in the game if you want. So let's say you find out, well, I got I need a lot of food, so I can't use my food here. And I need a lot of meds, so normally for a med, you could heal these 2 wounds away and discard your med, but then that's a med you don't have to travel at the end. So, but I don't have a lot of bullets. Well, bullets will help me because if I get attacked, instead of taking wounds, I can re-roll that by discarding an ammo. So you're scaring them off, you're using that ammo you have. Again, you don't have it to travel at the end of the game, but some games you won't need ammo. So what you're gonna have to figure out throughout the course of the game is what resources you need, which ones you can use, because all of them give you a benefit. Food gives you extra actions. Med heals things. Gas will help you move from one place to another without spending actions. So,
and I'm guessing that it scales by putting down more locations in here for more players?
Absolutely, there's more locations, you need more road cards at the end of the game. And that's basically the 2 main mechanisms that scale it. We've tested it at all player counts quite a bit. I mean, it's 2 years of development. We probably played it over 200 times ourselves. One of the other, probably most interesting thing that I hadn't covered is the Apocalypse cards. So these are, in traditional games, you think of event cards. The Apocalypse cards are them, but they're not them. You are going to turn over 1 a turn and something bad's going to happen. But the interesting thing is there's only 16 of them. And they're only in 4 different types. So again, part of this tactical planning you have is knowing what you've already seen and what's potentially coming up. They're represented by the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So you have things like famine, which you're going to require to eat food, or bad things are going to happen. If you're in the desert and bad things are happening and you don't eat, you can either go crazy or something else will happen to your characters. There's pestilence cards, which are the ones that flip these wounds over and bad things will happen. In this one, you sprain your wrist, so you might have to drop one of those resources you've been holding. Well, you spend an action to collect it, now you're dropping it again. So again, you have to decide which resource to drop, things like that. So there's a lot of tactical choices, and the great part is not only is it playing an hour, but when you're controlling a character, you do 2 things. So if I'm controlling one, I might move out and collect the food. Now it's your turn. So players' turns go very quickly, but it's going to come back to me again very quickly. Now I got to take my survivor, go over here, and I'll search. Okay, now we're going to add 2 ammo and a fuel to the location. And that's it. That was 1 move, 1 search. Or search and gather, or sometimes you just do 2 gathers. So players' turns can be very quick. But overall, the strategy you're going to have to use, you're going to have to take the location abilities into account. You're going to have to take your player special abilities into account. You're going to have to take your survivor special abilities into account. You can't leave certain people alone, so these decisions, while simple on the surface, are really driven by the everything behind it.
So, how, I'm assuming you win the game by completing the road. What is the timing mechanism on it?
So those are the apocalypse cards. So you have 16 at the beginning of the game. You're going to take 5 out. So you have basically 11 turns to figure it all out and get through the game. And again, your actions are super quick on each turn, and that's why even with 8 players. Now with the scenario for 8 players, everybody's only controlling 1 player. We didn't want people controlling heroes and some controlling survivors. Nobody would want to control a survivor. So everybody starts as heroes. Now we do things to increase the difficulty. We increase the threat on locations to begin with, so they're more dangerous to start with. Everybody's got heroes, but you've now got a more dangerous area you're going into, which means you have less total searches. Typically, when one person loses both characters, the game is over because we don't want player elimination, and the players lose. But in the scenario with 8 players, if you lose your character, your hero goes away and then you draw a survivor. So they come to the compound, they actually bring marauders with them, and that's one of the other potential lose mechanics that helps with the timing is on each of these apocalypse cards, they bring in a certain number of marauders to the fence. Once 11 are on the fence, that's another way of losing the game. So that's another threat that you're dealing with throughout the course of the game, and another use for ammo is to go get rid of some of these marauders.
Who's going to be the publisher for this?
So the publisher for Salvation Road is Van Ryder Games. It's on Kickstarter right now. It's going through June 11. Having a great start so far. We're looking forward to the last few days.
Cool. Well, I thank you for showing me this prototype, and yeah, if you get an opportunity to check out Salvation Road on Kickstarter. Otherwise, it should be in stores
early next year.
With Peter from MVP Board Games, and we are talking here about Dark Dealings, a new card game that he's working on.
Yeah, so Dark Dealings is going to come out from Nevermore Games. It's a quick playing card game. It's 108 total cards, and it is, if you like the game For Sale, it actually takes some of the bidding mechanic from that. The difference is you get to fight and kill monsters, or, well, actually you're not killing monsters. In this game, you're a dark overlord trying to protect your keep from the heroes that are coming and trying to evict you. So you actually get to fight heroes at the end of this game, but the bidding mechanisms use drafting, similar to games like Seven Wonders, and then bidding, similar to games like For Sale, and then a unique fighting mechanic that happens at the end of the game, and it all plays in about 20 minutes. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to get a hand of heroes. Heroes have a couple of things that differentiate them from each other. They have their strength at the top, which is the number you're going to need to beat them. They're going to have their vulnerabilities on the side. As you can see, some of them are only vulnerable, like this one is only vulnerable to spells. This is vulnerable to all three types, spells, monsters, and traps. And this one, of course, over here is monsters and traps only. So they're going to have a strength in their corner. They're going to have a type. So you'll notice all berserkers are the same. So you're not going to have to learn 100 different cards here. There are 9 of each type of hero with different strengths and vulnerabilities, but their special ability on each of the berserkers, for example, is always the same. So once you learn it, it's going to be pretty easy to learn. And then you have your value in the corner here, which is the value you're going to bid with. So you're first going to draft your heroes. Then you're going to use them to bid on the defenses that you will then fight them off with at the end. So basically, you are begging for defenses and spells and monsters from the Dark Masters to help you out to defeat these heroes who are attacking you. So at first you're going to start with 9 cards. You're going to take 2 of them in your hand and you're going to pass the other 7. Then you're going to get 7 given to you. You're going to draft 2 more, pass again, draft 2 more, pass again. Then the interesting thing is you deal up a number of defenses equaled, so here in a 2-player game, you're going to put defenses up equal to the number of players times 2. So in a 2-player game, you put up 4, and now you're going to bid with 2 heroes at a time. And then you flip them over. So you bid with those 2, I bid with these 2. Okay, I bid 1 and 6, you bid 42 and 29. So you say, okay, well, I like this defense, I'm going to draft this. So now your 42 goes face down, and he's going to be the last guy that you have to fight. Then, next, 29 is the next highest number, you're going to draft another defense. Let's say you want that one. That one goes on top. Then, I go in order, okay? My 6, I'll draft this defense. My 1, I will draft this defense. Then, when the end of the game comes, you're obviously going to do this with all 8. So you started with 9 heroes. You draft until you have 8. You're going to discard one of those heroes. Then, you're going to draft defenses. So you have 8 defenses in front of you. And then, let me flip some more defenses up. And then you start flipping the heroes. So, first hero to come up. This is an elf. I just need to get 7 points worth of value, and I can use anything I want. So I could use this trap to do 5 points of damage to him, and then I could use this skeleton over here to do another 2 points. So I've defeated the elf, and he goes away. We still have uses on them. Now we keep going. So the next person would fight off one guy. Next guy comes up. Well, this guy is only vulnerable to traps. He has 5 defenses that strike it or trash. So let's say I did have this defense here. Normally it would have 2 uses, but because he's a berserker, it's gone, even though I used it to get rid of him, and it would have typically had 1 use left. You have to trash it right away because all berserkers trash. Now remember, you've drafted all of these guys yourself, all these heroes that are attacking you. You know what they are at the beginning of the game. Every one of these defenses, you drafted yourself out of the middle. So you feel like you should have more, and even the order you put them down in is determined by the players. But then you've got to play it out, and it's basically last man standing. Now we do have a variant if people don't like the player elimination. I mean, by that point, you're going to be down to 2 or 3 heroes each. It's going to play very quickly by the time players are eliminated. But if you want no player elimination, that's fine. You can just keep track of how many heroes got through, and then count them up at the end, and then tiebreakers go to number of defenses you have left, and then strength of the defenses, and then reverse player order is the last tiebreaker, because there are some advantages for player order later on as well.
Cool, yeah, looks like a simple game to learn. I can see how you could use for sale with it, and then I do like the fact that you actually have multiple uses in these as well. And so that definitely increases the usability of these.
Yeah, and some of the, I mean, obviously some of them will have one really high strength. Other ones will be really weak ones that you can use a lot. Some heroes require different things. So like the wizard, they trash a defense before they ever do anything. So something like this 2 strength, you would get rid of that, hopefully, and protect your like 7 strength defenses that you have sitting around. There are scrolls here which allow you to, if a hero comes up that you wouldn't normally be able to deal with, allows you to put them on the bottom of your deck. You're gonna have to face them again. All it does is, we haven't quite decided on the artwork, but there, and by the way, all this is prototype artwork. This is cover artwork. This is by our actual artist. I should have mentioned earlier, all the rest of this is prototype artwork. We have some really cool ideas though for the artwork on this as well. So basically it's gonna give him a detour, tell him to go somewhere else, and then you have to fight the next hero instead. So to kind of get out of jail free, but remember you're drafting this instead of another defense. So yes, it's useful, but you're giving up something to get it.
So there's a give and take, and risk versus reward.
Absolutely.
So, and this is coming to Kickstarter.
June 12th it's going to start. I don't know how long the campaign's going to run, but it's from Nevermore Games. They did Chicken Caesar. It's probably what they're best known for. So
very cool. Okay, great. Thank you for showing me Dark Beetlines.
Great. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.